is Tim Bleecker. I'm co-director of the Prilog Vodiča Center, which is a center right outside of Washington, D.C. called Bethesda, Maryland. And so what we do there at this center is we see families on a consistent basis with all different types of diagnoses. So a family might get a diagnosis of autism, depression, whatever it may be. We bring them in, we take a history, we get to know them, and we help support the parents. We give them the tools that they may need to help connect with their child, to help the child move up that developmental ladder. So we give them tools, and the therapy we do is called floor time. Floor time therapy, which was developed by Dr. Stanley Greenspan, who was a great mind in the field. He passed away 5 years ago, unfortunately, but he has decades upon decades of great work. So the Floor Time Center, his son and I are the directors there, and we are kind of working with the families, but another piece of what we do is we travel around the world and kind of discuss, teach this great model. And that's why I've been to many countries around here, but this is why I'm in Belgrade right now, is I'm doing a training with speech therapists, physiotherapists, teachers. Some of them are new, and some I've worked with over the last few years to do more advanced training. So they can not just work with the child, but they can work with the parents and the family. And that's a very key piece of helping a child. It's not just working with the child, but the parents too. So that's why I'm here. There's so many different possible challenges that you may run into that you can't just teach in a book or through I give a conference for a day or two. That's just the theory behind it. You have to have the experience. I had to have the experience of working with a family, all different types of family. And even if a family comes in with an autism diagnosis and another family comes in with an autism diagnosis, very different, very different. So the people that we train, they need to have that experience and bring that to the table so we can discuss it. And they need that experience because that's what allows them to be the best therapist possible. So when I do these trainings, it's not that I come here for a couple days and then I leave. I do calls, and now with technology over Skype, I see videos, they submit a video working with their child, and then we sit down and we have a very in-depth conversation about what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. What is the issue with maybe a parent? What's the issue with the child? Why can't they connect with the child? Or why are they doing such a great job helping the child develop? We need to talk about all those things with every different type of child that comes into it. So that's why it's an ongoing process. And we first start with just kids. Now we're training, this advanced training is working with the family, which is a whole nother complexity. I'm still learning, I mean, a lot. I really, truly believe you really need a good 5 years after getting this training, a little bit of the training, and then working with this model and really understanding the complexities and then knowing how to intervene with them. I think you need a good 5 years until it feels natural. You don't even have to think about it. So with a lot of the trainees, they have to think, oh, what do I do next? How do I do this? For the ones I've been working with over years, it comes to them. And that's the thing, I go into working with a child now and a family, and I can be there in the moment because I don't have to think about what's next. It's part of who I am. And so I think 5 years is a good mark, but again, I'm still learning. I would say the most critical piece of that process. It's interesting, in different areas around the world, there's different philosophies and a cultural understanding of it, where some places say, I have a child with needs. Okay, I need to go to the professional. I need to go to the doctor. Here you go, speech therapist, help me. Okay, you work with the child and help fix the child. No matter where you are, the parent is the key. And that's what I think, especially in this region, we've we've tried to bring the knowledge that involve the parents. The parents are the most invested about their child. We as therapists, teachers care very much, but it's the parents. It's the parents that can get that connection going. They're the ones that are the ultimate security for the child. So they will be able to hopefully get the child to the higher levels of communicating, connecting, language. But at the same time, this can be very difficult for the parents. So we need to support them. And so that's where therapists are kind of changing their thinking. Instead of having the child and family just come to them and they just work with the child, it's now, let's give the parents the tools. Let's say, hey, bring your child here, but also do this every day. Keep this going. We have to do this in order to make changes in the brain. And I always talk about the brain often. My mom's a neurologist, because this is where connections happen. And you're actually making new connections, but it needs to be on an intense basis, not once a week where you come to therapy for an hour. It needs to be every day, multiple times a day. And we need the parents involved as much as they can be. Sure, I mean, yes, culturally, different areas. I have the same challenges in the United States though, because what this model is about, what Floor Time's about, is meeting the child with who they are, and us as the supporters, interventionists, adjusting to that child. The same holds true to that parent, or to the parents, or to the grandparents, whoever the caregiver is. It is my job to adjust. I'm not going to say, you do it this way, okay? Now, there's certain techniques and areas we want to develop. So there is a structure, but my job, if I go to another country, if I'm working with a family that's, it's more disciplined, okay? And we're going to teach the child, I need to figure out a way to reach those parents. I need to figure out a way to reach that child. So I have to adjust. And this is part of why we talked about earlier, you need a lot of training, because they have to learn now how to adjust to each family, whether it's just how they were brought up or because they're from another culture. And so I put that on us as the therapists, teachers, educators, doctors to do that. I think way too often, and again, I'm not just saying Europe, I'm saying also in the United States, it's not us adjusting to the family. It's us saying, you need to do this, this, and this, and you don't respect the family. And I think that's a disservice, and you don't reach families then. And then obviously the child doesn't develop. The thing I would say about this area, and it's actually my third time, and I'm sure I'm going to be here many more times, is that there's a certain emotional intensity here, which I love, because it's this dedication to the child, and it's intense. Not as intense maybe that I would see in the US, and I'm saying in general. It always varies with individual families. And I love that. I still think around here it's the culture of, the therapist does kind of the work and the parent doesn't have the knowledge. And so I do see some of that. Now I'm at this actual center because they have more of a model that I believe in, where it is working with the whole family. But that's the challenge I run into, and that's the challenge when I give conferences in this region, is that it's a little bit different thinking about bringing the family into it. And I have to work with both the parents, but also the therapist in accepting that. So that's what I see. But I love the family piece of it and the connection in this area, which I find sometimes can be stronger than what I see in the States. Challenges in the future, I mean, the individual challenges with the families is helping support them year after year after year, because this can be very tiring. So that's an ongoing challenge. In terms of this model, Floor Time, and really having people look at development and reaching the child where they are, that can be challenging in itself, because it's much easier to say, I have a way of doing something. I'm going to teach this. Hey, this child's going to go to school. Let's teach him matching. Let's teach him how to do shapes. It's very easy to do that. And that's why we see this in schools here, and we see it in schools in the States. It's a very, what we call splinter skill model. You're teaching a child a skill, and you're not working from the bottom up. You're not working on the child's ability to connect. I have many kids who are older, and as they get older, we need more academics, we need more words. But the reason that they're having difficulty with it is that they can't even stay with us. They can't connect. And that's what we work on. We work on, then this is what a developmental model is, we work from the bottom up. And people don't value that. They see a child, he's in the 4th grade now, we gotta work on this, we gotta work on math. And so they forget about that this child still needs to work on attention, connection, simple back and forth interactions. And so this kind of more splinter skill therapy, I'm always struggling with many therapists, with parents. And I think it's an inner need. All parents want to see their child talk. All parents want to see their child succeed at school. But the reason that maybe all of us could do this here is that we had a foundation. And people don't want to continue to work on the foundation as a child gets older. That's the challenge with this model. Results are very important. Studies are very important. And this actually goes back to another challenge of floor time versus what they call here ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. Applied Behavioral Analysis has a lot of evidence, and it has evidence in really teaching skills. And I'm not going to argue that, and that's great. It can teach a certain skill, it can teach some academic skill, and that's wonderful when I believe a child is ready. The evidence for floor time is we don't have as much research, but a lot of research is coming out. We do have studies. It is an evidence-based supported therapy. And what's very good and what's very challenging is that the challenging part is I can measure a skill. I can measure if a child does this and if he does or he doesn't do it. How do you measure ability to connect? Warmth, gleam, what you see in an infant when they smile at you, which is the key to language and relationships. It's not easy to measure that. Therefore, there haven't been many studies on it. It's very difficult to measure that. And there's now ways to do it with certain models, but it's still not easy to do that. And developmental models take time because we feel we're building from bottom up. And so that also makes it very difficult to do some research on it. But what is wonderful now is with the advent of brain imaging and that we can see what's going on. Back in the day, we only could see through a test, but now we can look at the brain. We are seeing some wonderful things, and there's going to be some studies coming out that really provide support on that. I can't talk about them yet, but it's going to be good. And that's what's nice. And as we continue to do more and more studies to see how the brain is activated, I don't feel like you can argue with that. We're going to hopefully see that we're activating many areas of the brain, which you need in development, instead of one area that develops a skill. So we do need more research, but a lot of research is coming out.